So my teams kept changing every single week just based on who's winning.
What could you not live without, music or Arsenal?
The league is not done yet.
Joining me today, you'll be able to see it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, is Dante, and just a little bit of context, we're both vision mixers at TalkSport, and I'm actually quite intrigued about this conversation, quite excited, because I feel like we don't really get to, because of shift pattern and stuff, we don't really get to chat much, especially about Arsenal. So I'm excited to talk about Arsenal, but also excited to learn about your journey into the game, like working in it, because obviously we work at the same place, but I feel like everyone's got completely different stories, so I'm quite fascinated with that. But as always, I start off the episode with every guest with the same question. So Dante, can you tell me why Arsenal? Why do you support Arsenal?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. It is a great pleasure and a great privilege. I've seen your content. I've seen like the little snippets and stuff. So thank you for having me on. So your first question is why Arsenal? It's kind of cliche, and I feel like you might have a lot of guests that might say this, but it's probably family members. I'd probably say it's more my mum and my uncle, so my mum's brother. And it's funny actually because when I was younger, I didn't really have I didn't have a football team, because I don't know if you as a kid, or for example when you're young, you know, you just watch football each weekend, you just support a team who's winning. So my teams kept changing every single week just based on who's winning, because I just wanted to have a good positive weekends, like positive days sort of thing. And I got to the age where I said to myself, I actually need to support a team. So I think the reason why I just chose Arsenal, one, because my mum and my uncle convinced me, and two, I always said, if I'm going to support a team, it's going to be a team in London. So it just cancelled out straight away. But don't get me wrong, I did love the Liverpool team, like in the era of like Daniel Sturridge, Luis Suarez, in the Brendan Rodgers era. But the thing is, they weren't winning trophies and stuff. They were always close and stuff. But I don't know what drew me to Arsenal. I think it was more my mum and my uncle that just drew me in.
I quite like that. Like, maybe it's quite like a childlike mindset of being positive, being like, I need to support the team that's winning, which honestly, I feel like that must be a great way to live if your team was winning every week. And I feel like for Arsenal right now, obviously we're going to chat about the performances recently, but I feel like it's not too far off it, but it must have been a bit of a wake-up call the minute you actually started supporting Arsenal and suddenly you went, okay, we're actually not going to win every week.
That's the thing. It's funny because I said that I was supporting Arsenal, one point supporting Liverpool, but I was supporting random teams. I was supporting Stoke City. They won like one weekend, and I was going around telling my friends, yeah, I support Stoke City, and that's like, wait, what? That's like odd. And obviously now Stoke are not even in the Prem, obviously. I also used to say to my friends I support Chelsea as well, because Chelsea did well.
Did you buy all the shirts, or did you? Because that would be really expensive.
No, I didn't buy all the shirts, but it's funny. I think at the time when I was still in the Valley of Decision, I think my dad must have bought me like a Liverpool bag. But so that's when I was like, oh, should I support Arsenal, support Liverpool? So I remember him buying a Liverpool bag. Then I started watching a bit of Liverpool, but I went back to Arsenal. So it was like I was definitely back and forth between Arsenal and Liverpool, and then I just made a decision. I probably started supporting Arsenal about 8-9 years old. So maybe a couple of years after when Thierry Henry scored that famous goal.
Got like a Arsenal shirt on, your Liverpool bag, and then maybe even Stoke City shorts or something like that. Just fully mismatched. But I do feel like at that age, I was sort of the same, not in the way of I'd say I support every team. I'd just always be like, I support England, and then whoever the sort of team that I'd watch, which obviously ended up being Arsenal women when I was about 10 years old. But I do feel like I sort of had a similar pathway into not really having a team. I didn't actually say I support every team, but I just didn't really associate with a team until probably similar age to you, like 9-10 years old. But also, as well as us obviously being vision mixers at TalkSport, I feel like we have another similar thing in common, which obviously is that we're both Croydon Gooners. And I don't know for you, but has this made it difficult to find your team? Obviously, when you were mentioning a few teams then, you didn't actually bring up Crystal Palace, which obviously is our local team. And whenever I talk to anyone, whether that's at work or at games, they're like, oh, where do you live? Like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, Croydon. They're like, how come you support Arsenal then? Because obviously it's South London, supporting a North London club. But for you, like, was Crystal Palace ever in the picture, or did you just sort of go with the influences of your family members?
To be honest with you, not really. I didn't really think about Crystal Palace, and that's not to say that I didn't know about them. I just thought of them as a team as they never fight for trophies. But yeah, it's funny because even with like primary school, there was a lot of people in my school that supported Arsenal. There was a couple of Liverpool fans, a couple of Chelsea fans as well, a couple United. But it was mainly Arsenal at my school. So I think the fact that a lot of my friends at school supported Arsenal, I think more put me in a position in the Arsenal field more than the Liverpool field as well. Because imagine like a lot of your school friends support
Yeah.
Arsenal, at least you can come in and celebrate and stuff like that.
Unless it's a match day, that's when you see a lot of Palace fans, especially if it's at Selhurst. But if I'm just walking on a random day, I feel like because the amount of merch drops that Arsenal make, it's more fashionable than just wearing a football shirt. It's like you can wear a beanie or you can wear like a, I don't know, like a jacket or something different. So I feel like there's a lot of Arsenal all around
Yeah.
London. And to be fair, I feel like that excitement that you're saying of you'd like all
Mm.
your friends you can talk about winning silverware, and Arsenal obviously pushing for a few trophies this season. We know one obviously hasn't gone our way, but we can talk about the other silverware that hopefully can come to us in a little bit. But just going back to sort of why you support Arsenal, your early influences being family. In terms of on the pitch, you mentioned like the likes of Thierry Henry with that iconic goal. Are there any other players that stand out to you that sort of made you fall in love with Arsenal even more?
I think so. Obviously, I probably supported Arsenal maybe after my time of when Thierry Henry and stuff was there. So I probably supported Arsenal around when we bought
Yeah.
like Mesut Ozil and stuff from Real Madrid. So obviously the link up with Ozil. I don't know if you remember players like Rosicky, Podolski as well. I really like Podolski because I'm a left footer in football, and every time I was to watch Podolski, I think yeah he's a player sort of thing. So yeah, I'd say Santi Cazorla, Podolski, Theo Walcott at the time I really
Yeah,
liked
yeah,
as
yeah.
well, and obviously with like the black culture as well and stuff like playing for Arsenal. So yeah, there was a few players around that time when I did in the end start supporting
We're
Arsenal.
obviously similar in
So
age, whereas I've had a few guests on that say the likes of Thierry Henry or people or players that were at the club and in and around the club before I actually started like watching them properly. The players you mentioned then, I feel like it's maybe was it like FIFA 11, FIFA 13, one of the FIFA games. I feel like that's literally what I remember those players like when you mentioned the likes
yeah,
of obviously Theo Walcott, Jack Wilshere, Santi Cazorla. Obviously you've got Nemo, Mesut Ozil, like all these
exactly.
players
There you
that
go.
I just remember through obviously playing on FIFA, and then
Yeah.
it wasn't until probably 5 years ago that I actually started watching them and stuff. But yeah, that feels so nostalgic for you to
Mm.
obviously bring them to the conversation.
And just another thing to add, I think I was one of the unfortunate ones where I actually didn't get to watch Thierry Henry in my time because obviously you might have guests that come on that might say your
Yeah.
Thierry Henrys, your Dennis Bergkamps, your Perez, your Patrick Vieira's and stuff, but that's all before my time, like which is crazy. So I'd have to be watching like clips as I get older and actually
Yeah.
delve into the fact on how good those players were.
Just talking of Thierry
Yeah,
Henry, obviously because we didn't actually get to see him live in the stadium in the flesh. Who is a player now that you think obviously doesn't have to be a striker because I feel like that's kind of a bit of an issue at Arsenal, but who's a player now that in
yeah.
10, 20 years time people would be like, oh my god, you were lucky to see that player? I feel like I've got a couple in my head, but can you think of any that you're like, oh,
That's a good question actually. I think I don't know if people will agree with me, but I think the early years of when Martin Odegaard came to the club and the way how he just transformed things, I thought he would kind of give that sort of Dennis
yeah,
Bergkamp vibes. Obviously, he's like been injured this season and stuff, and I think this. I remember the time when Odegaard did come into the club. Saka wasn't really into the first team as much. So I think when Martin Odegaard first came into the club, I said, yeah, this could be one of the players that could elevate us.
mad thing is that potentially Arsenal could win trophies, but he's not even the team's not made around him, if that makes sense, because of the injuries. And this season it's like he's dipped in form. But I
Yeah.
definitely do feel like
Mm.
there's a lot of good players in our team right now that when you look back in 20 years' time, you're like, they were actually really good. Like we can maybe do with them in our squad now, the same ways that a lot of
Mm.
people on this pod in general, like when I have conversations with any Arsenal fan, they're like, oh, what I would do to have Thierry Henry in the team right now. It's that sort of mentality of he would just be
Well,
amazing. He would just
yeah,
complete the
literally.
team.
Mm.
But moving on from obviously like how you got into
Mm.
Arsenal, like supporting Arsenal, I sort of want to know how you got into working in the game because that's a transition that I feel like on paper it looks quite easy because it's like, oh, you just make your passion your career. but there's so many pros and cons to it. Obviously, you've been a vision mixer at Talksport for, I think it's coming up to 3 years now,
Mm.
which obviously is crazy in itself. But firstly, what was it about vision mixing that fascinated you that you thought, I want to get involved? And how did the opportunity actually come about?
So the reason why I like vision mixing is because it all comes from church. So for those who don't know, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist that goes to church on a Saturday, and I'm part of the audio and visual team at my church, and I've been doing it for a long time now. So I'm 22 now, so
Oh,
maybe
wow.
around over 10 years now. So yeah, so I've been
Hmm.
involved in that department for a long time now and just being a part of the team. And it's actually funny because I think as I'm older, because I'm also a musician as well, I was thinking, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I leave secondary school. So the thing of trying to work out what I want to do, it only started coming around year 10, year
Hmm.
11. I said, oh, I want to work in the media industry. So so that's why I studied at Nescott College, where I studied the course is called Level 3 Creative Media, Film and TV. So that's where I was able to understand all the different skills. But it's funny actually because you asked how did I actually get into the industry. I didn't realize sport media was a thing. Don't get me wrong, sport media is a thing,
Hmm.
but I didn't realize it was a thing. I just remember finishing secondary school and then transitioning to college and just saying I want to be in the media industry, whether it's in TV, whether it's film. But I always
Hmm.
knew in the back of my mind, vision mixing is my gig. Around the time where I realized I could do sport media, I came across this forum called BComs. So BComs stands for the Black Collective of Media and Sport, and it basically helps people in
Hmm.
different backgrounds, whether you're Asian, you're black, different, literally different minority backgrounds to get into the sport media industry. So I joined that program in 2022. Yeah, like the summer of 2022. So this is when I'm in my
Hmm.
second year of college, I believe. Yeah, I'll probably say like second year of college. So I remember at college, I was just doing, in college, we
Yeah.
just do a lot of different projects to put you in a position to like work out what you want to do in the industry. So I remember when it came to my final major project, I said, "What am I gonna do?" And it's funny because I was more leaning
Okay.
towards a music video, just because I enjoyed making it and producing it the most. But then that was when I realized around the time of me working out that I like sport. Why don't I just do a podcast on sport? So that's where the
Yes.
name of the Center Circle first birthed through college. And I remember just asking my teachers who wants. I asked like three of my teachers from the college if they wanted to be on the podcast because what was good about college is that there was like different teams
Hmm.
and it was very ranged. So it was like a Man United fan, a Chelsea fan, a Spurs fan, and I had one of my friends jump on who's a Crystal Palace fan, and I'm an Arsenal fan. So it was very much ranged in terms of different teams, and it all, and with planning that podcast, it all started from planning it, what I'm going to talk about, how long is it going to be, where am I going to shoot the podcast, how am I going to decorate the room, like because I think when you do a podcast, sometimes it's
Hmm.
always good to show the different things in the background. So I remember having like different football tops hanging from like the wall and stuff. So like all different ranges of years of shirts. And it was good fun shooting that podcast actually. And I think that was around the period when I said, "Oh, I like sport, I like
Hmm.
media. Why I could just merge it together." I always said to myself I was never going to go to university, because I just
Yeah.
didn't see myself as a university student, and I felt like I could get into the industry by just meeting the right people and doing a lot of networking. So I remember finishing my second year of college, and my college teachers actually recommended me to stay on and do another year and do like a level 4 course, which was completely free. And the level 4 course was
Hmm.
called Creative Enterprise. So that was where I was with like four other students, and we would become a production company for 1 year. So we would take on many different projects. And this is when I actually joined BComs. So it was
Yeah.
a very smooth transition where I could do college and do BComs at the same time. So I remember doing a lot of master classes at BComs whilst I was at college. So like you said, Talksport was one of them. I went to ITV Sport. I went to Arsenal. I went to couple of the few some of the
Yeah.
Arsenal games as well as a journalist, and I was able to ask managers questions after games. And the second game that I went to was the game where we played Man
Hmm.
City, where everyone was calling it the title decider. So it felt like it was a privilege for me to even be at that game because I'm not a person that goes to games. So the fact that I was able to get this gig through BComs and go to a game as a journalist and ask questions to managers. So I remember asking Mikel Arteta a question.
How important is it to have programs like BComs in the sports industry?
I can't tell you enough how much BComs has helped me get into the position that I am in today. The different masterclasses they provide, they enable you to meet the types of people that are in the industry working at the moment and meeting the right people as well, and putting you in situations where if you
Yeah.
are put into the industry, how will you face them as well. So that's one of the main reasons why BComs is such a big asset in today's society as well.
And that's why it's so important that programs like this exist, because even if you enter a room and you're like, oh, I don't actually want to do that, at least you know that without dedicating a contract of like multiple years to this one job, you can sort of, you've got the advantage of actually looking at lots of different roles, seeing what you want to do, but it's so important to be able to have those spaces. Just going back to obviously vision mix and like what we both do right now, I was sort of thinking of this question when I
Mm.
was like prepping for this episode and thinking, you know what, I don't even know my answer to this, but if you could vision mix anyone, do you have anyone in your head? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be an Arsenal player or even an athlete, just anyone that you'd like to vision mix.
Oh, that's a good that's a good question. Um, that's interesting. And to even I think the reason why it's such a hard question is because at the time of me being in BComs, I didn't
Hmm.
realize that I'd get an opportunity like Talksport. And Talksport is such a big company, which first and foremost, I've been listed. I was that sort of person that would get in the car and just say, "Oh, let's listen to Talksport," and I'd actually listen to Drive. Drive was like the show that I used to listen to a lot,
Hmm.
whether it's like getting in the car like during rush hour. Sometimes I hear a lot of clips about Sports Bar as well. So I feel like it might. I don't know if it's weird to say, but I just wanted. I enjoyed like vision mixing Drive and stuff just because of the fact that I grew up listening to it. So the
Yeah,
fact that
yeah.
I was like work on the show now like is insane. And I think when you're coming like when you're new to the industry, you don't really think, oh, I want to vision mix this person. You just take it a day as it comes. That's why it's such that's maybe for you why it's a hard question to ask because you don't know what the
Mm.
industry is gonna like throw at you. So it's just like to answer your question, I don't think you can answer that question because the industry can throw many surprises in there and you just have to take it a
No,
day.
definitely. Obviously, yeah, we've spoken a lot about the vision mixing, a lot about Arsenal, and you've mentioned music as well. I'm just going to throw another random question at you because I've seen, obviously, I mean, anyone, if they see your
Yeah.
socials, when you spoke about obviously going to church and how you obviously vision mix and do the audio and visuals and stuff there, but you also play. I mean, you play the drums, but I feel like I saw you playing piano recently. Like, I feel like you can play multiple instruments. The question I'm going to throw at you, which I
Yeah.
actually don't know how anyone would answer this, but obviously with
Yeah.
your passion is what could you not live
Yeah.
without, music or Arsenal? You can offend the podcast. Remember, it's the
Oh,
Arsenal Humans, but you can offend.
without trying to be, but I'd probably have to say music. I don't know, just because of the fact of music happens
Yeah.
almost every weekend for me. And bearing in mind, it's just a hobby. Like there's days where there's weekends where Arsenal not even playing. Like this weekend, at the time of recording, Arsenal haven't played this weekend, and I remember, and you're doing like maybe gigs, you're practicing and stuff. And music's been a part of me my whole life. I've
Hmm.
got like my uncle does music, my dad has a passion for music. I've got so many friends that do music. So I think if I said Arsenal, I'd probably get a lot of like eyebrows
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
It literally exists in your everyday life, it feels like. And even when I wrote
Mm.
this question, I was like, you know what? Oh,
Yeah.
this is going to be a really tricky one. But the fact that you grew up wearing different shirts, supporting different teams, I'm like, actually, the question should be music or sport. That would be probably a bigger question. Even then, I feel like you'd probably go with music. You obviously mentioned earlier about the centre circle and how you started creating that when you were at college. And obviously, that's basically a platform that you
Yeah.
chat all things Arsenal, all things football as a whole, to be fair, like you said, with the different clubs. Obviously, you
Yeah.
haven't, I don't think you've done too much content or focused too heavily on it recently. Is this like an exclusive? Like, are we going to see the centre circle back, or
Mm.
where are you actually prioritizing your time in terms of content?
Good question. With the center circle, like I think when
Mhm.
I did do that podcast at college, I didn't think it was gonna go anywhere just because like one of the requirements was to do like post it somewhere so it can go out to people. So I thought, let me just make a YouTube
Yeah,
channel,
yeah.
give it a name, and just post it on there. So I remember just posting the video and it got like 200 views. Like, and in my mind, I was thinking, yeah, it's to like for a person that doesn't do YouTube at all, that's decent
Hmm.
considering if I send it to like family members and friends, I've got a little couple of comments there and there as well. And I remember just before joining BComs and maybe when applying as well, I think it was good that I did have the center circle
Hmm.
to say, "Oh, I've done this," and I think joining BComs actually gave me the drive to like start it back up to a certain degree. In terms of let me just start uploading just for fun and see what happens. And it's funny because one of the videos that is on the channel is which is the most popular is the founder of Bcoms, which has got like 2.9k views
Hmm.
on YouTube. And to me, that's like massive. Maybe to like content creators, it might be like, oh, that's absolutely
I would
nothing.
say
But to
that's a lot
me,
of
it's
views.
it's
That's
massive.
really good.
But it's funny because like I remember when I was doing it, I didn't see myself as a content
Hmm.
creator, but I just thought, let me try it out. And I remember I think just being in BComs, I must have posted about like 10 to 12 videos. And then there was a period when I got into the industry and I just kind of not put it to bed, but like had a little break, then post another couple videos and stuff. And since I've posted those couple of videos, I haven't posted in like a year, like you said. Um, I don't know if it's because of
Hmm.
I'm in the industry, or I just don't see myself as a content creator, so I'm not putting too much pressure.
I do want to focus back on Arsenal because obviously this is the Arsenal Humans podcast and look at the current season. Just overall, Dante, what are your
Mm,
sort of thoughts of
mm.
this season? I mean, any potential silverware do you think is realistic? Just tell me sort of like a brief overview of how you're feeling as an Arsenal fan right now.
I want to feel
Hmm.
as optimistic and positive as much as possible. Listen, I understand the past 3 years has not gone the way how we would have wanted it to go. We've finished in second like 3 or 4 years in a row. But I think with this season, I think the way how we've been playing, listen, the media talking about how boring we're playing and stuff. I think seasons prior to this season, we were playing excellent football and we didn't get over the line. And you had people criticizing us. So the fact we're doing it differently and still getting
Hmm.
criticized is like a no win win situation. But as long as Arsenal get over the line, Arsenal
Exactly.
fans won't care, the Arsenal team won't care. If you just told me, like, just pick up the Prem, that's an amazing season
Hmm.
because the fact we haven't won a trophy in how many years, or Premier League, if we're talking Premier League, 22 years. And like I've only seen
Hmm.
us win FA Cups, like 3 or 4 FA Cups in my lifetime of living and stuff. So I hope we can get the Prem over the line, which I think we will, to be fair. I think it all comes down to that
Yeah.
City game. Um, because it's funny because City are dropping points where you don't expect them to drop points. But at the same time, whenever City drop points, we always like to drop points as well, and we don't take advantage as much as we should be. Because if we was taking
Hmm.
advantage of whenever City dropping points, this league should be done.
So true.
Like the league should have been wrapped up by now to the point where I'm thinking about Champions League. But it's still like the league is not done yet.
Just focusing on the Premier League, it does look written for us
Yeah.
to win it. Is that actually enough? Because I think right now there's a lot of criticism and a lot of scrutiny on Arteta in particular. So do you think that winning the Premier League is enough for Arteta to keep his job, but also just for Arsenal to have respect? Because like you said, that phrase bottling it, goes round all the time. Do you think this was finally
Yeah.
silence it?
Yeah, no, 100%. And the amount of years that we've been going for the league, and I know like there's been fans that has been saying, "Oh, we should get rid of Arteta." To be fair, I think there was one season where I was just thinking, yeah, we need to actually get rid of Arteta. But I know this season, if he doesn't win anything, then I know it's like, okay, he might have to go and stuff. But it's funny because I don't know if you've asked this question to like your guests that have come on here if they would rather win the Premier League or the Champions League. Me personally, I actually would rather us see win the Premier League, and that's just because of the fact that we've been going for the league now for the past 4 years, and I think when Arteta came in, you have to trust the process and stuff, and there's a project. I actually think if Arteta was to win the Premier League, the project is like complete because you've come in and said you have to trust the process. We've got a project we need to do, and for you to go and win the league, for me in my eyes you've completed it. Whereas I feel like if he was to win the Champions League, and don't get me wrong, there's people that are older than me, older than both of us, that have seen us win the Premier League, and we haven't won that Champions League. Um, I felt like if we was to, like, for example, win the Champions League, yes, I would be happy, but I'd still be
Yeah.
thinking, how come the league's not been wrapped up, in the sense of we've been going for it for the past 4 years. We've only been in Champions League, what, the past 2 seasons. So I'd really want to win the I'd really want to prioritize the league first, just because of the fact that we've been going for it for the past 4 seasons, and I just think it would like put an end to, is Arteta the man to get us over the line? Don't get me wrong, if Arteta was to win the Champions League, people say yeah he's got over the line, but I just feel like people probably wouldn't give us credit if we won just the Champions League, because people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
we've gone through the easy side of the draw. The teams that you playing are not like the big teams and stuff." I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear it personally. I would rather just win the Prem. Like people say, Prem is the
Yeah.
hardest trophy to win in a 38 game season. Um, let's just get that over the line, and then let's see what we do next season. Whether it's go for the Champions League, go for like an FA Cup.
I think yes, because the men haven't won the Champions League, that would be amazing. But like you're saying, obviously on this podcast, I've had a lot of guests that are saying that it would be great to win the Premier League because it shows consistency. I mean, we've never actually seen Arsenal men lift the league
Yeah,
title. So I think in that aspect, just selfishly, I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, I'd love to see them do it. But I think almost the bigger question mark, no matter if we won the
yeah,
FA Cup and Champions League at this point, if we don't get the Premier League over the line, what has gone on to cause that? Because obviously we're like 9 points clear of City. I
yeah,
mean, technically it's probably about 6 points, obviously, if we taken their game in hand, and then we don't know how it's going to go when we face them. But it's so like that is the
yeah,
debate. But I guess obviously because this episode will be coming out a few days before City's game, obviously up at Etihad, I kind of just want to hear your thoughts on, like, do you think that they can actually chase Arsenal? Do you think that this game will obviously go into their favour and the Carabao Cup final defeat will come to haunt us? Or what sort of are your predictions with this game?
yeah. I know the talk about will the Carabao Cup win define the title race. I personally don't think it will. But I do think the title race will become more closer than people like initially thought. So in my mind, I thought we should be able to wrap up the league like 2, 3 games, like maybe even four. But I actually think it will come down to maybe the last 2 games, like maybe wrap up the last
Yeah.
home game of the season. But it should be way more comfortable than that, to the point where we're kind of resting players and more going for the Champions League, that the league is like completed. I did say if City was to drop points to Chelsea, by the time we're recording, this might have happened already. But if City was to drop points to Chelsea and we beat Bournemouth, for example, and then we didn't, and then we went and gone and beat City, or we didn't lose to them, then I think it'd be done, just because of the fact that you've gained more points than them. But say, for example, City win their games up until when they play us and they beat us, then they win their game in hand. Then it's squeaky bum time. Then it's, can we go win our next 5 games? Because I think if City was to beat us, I can't see where they drop points.
Obviously, we still have the lead, but as long as we're sort of assuming that we're going to win all our remaining games, which that would be amazing if we could, but obviously, realistically,
Exactly.
we probably could drop 1 or 2 points
It's
here
tough.
and there. So it's definitely going to be very tight.
Yeah.
Just like one word answer or one phrase answer. What's your score prediction for Arsenal City at the weekend? Put you on the
Uh,
spot there.
I'm gonna say I don't think we'll lose, so I'm
Okay,
gonna
okay.
say
So not
Desmond two
fully
two.
confident, and that's the thing. I do feel like
Yeah,
you can't
I can't
underestimate the
see it.
City side, and it makes complete sense with everything you're saying, like why
You
you
can't.
sort of need to think, okay, it might be level. I feel like we could get a last minute winner. It could honestly go either way.
Yeah,
But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see with that
yeah.
one. I just want to ask the last
Okay.
question about the current team. Looking at the whole season, are there three players that stand
Mm,
out to you that are like
mm.
standout players for positive reasons, obviously not negative? Like you think, okay, these players have had a great season.
First of all, Declan Rice, 100%. Declan Rice. Gabriel, I would say. Um, and it's a toss up between Raya and Zubamendi, actually. Zubamendi's had good games, but he's had a couple of mistakes in him. So I'm going to say Raya, just because there's been games where he's actually
He
saved
saves
us
us
this
so
season.
much.
Like, there's been games where I'm looking at it as we're winning 2-1 and he makes a worldie of a
Hmm.
save to keep it at 2-1 or something, or it's 0-0 and he makes a save and then we go up the other end and score.
Those are definitely standout players, and I feel like the fact that you struggled, obviously, because there are a few other options, is so encouraging for us. And I'm hoping that we can manifest that going into the rest of the season, going into that City game in particular, it hopefully will go in
Mm,
our favour because we have these great players. So hopefully that all still fully fit and like can see out the
yeah.
season. Just want to end the episode with a little bit of a game that I always
Mm,
do a little game, and this time I've gone back to a play bench sell because the last time I did it, I actually was just looking. I did it a few weeks back, probably like a month ago now, with Romario, and I do feel like the Arsenal squad was kind
mm,
of in a different position then
mm,
because obviously I'm going to use different players, but focusing on the current squad, sort of in a different position. Obviously, we
mm.
didn't have any defeats in terms of silverware, whereas since then we've been knocked out of the Carabao Cup. So I don't know if that could influence anything. And I've picked different players from our current squad, looking at the back line, looking at the midfield, and looking at the strikers, the attacking players. So the first
Mm.
one is obviously
Yeah.
looking at like the centre backs, more of the defending players, Saliba, Gabriel, and Mosquera. Who are you playing? Who are you benching? And who are you selling?
Gabriel Saliba and Mascara. Oh, okay. I don't want to take too long on this. I'm gonna say it's funny actually because I think at the start of Arteta's
Hmm.
reign, I think people were edging towards Saliba. But then I think the last couple of years of like the way how we've been playing with like the set piece and stuff, the way how Gabriel's been cleaning
It's
up
tricky.
is insane. So you know what? I'm gonna say start Gabriel, bench Saliba, and sell Mascara. But listen, a big credit to Mascara by the way, because I don't know how much you bought. I think it's
Hmm.
like 15 mil, an absolute steal and bargain that we bought him for. I think the only reason why I'm selling Mascara is just because he doesn't really play. He doesn't really play as much, but yeah, he's been really good. I think Gabriel. I think when we've not had Gabriel in the team, we
Yeah.
look a lot different. Um, in a sense, we're not as threatening, and we don't have the talk of like have the set piece and stuff. I think when Gabriel wasn't in the team, our set pieces did actually dry up, and then when he came back in the team, we were just cleaning them up again. Saliba's been really good as well, but I'd have to edge Gabriel. Yeah.
Saliba or Gabriel, either one. But because Gabriel is clinical, obviously
Mm,
up the other end of the pitch as well, getting the goals, usually through headers, I feel like that is so crucial
yeah.
to have him on the pitch. But they definitely come as a duo. I feel like taking one away from the other one,
Yeah.
it looks completely different and it's not as stable at the back. So
Mm,
completely agree. Moving on to the
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
midfield, Rice, Zubimendi, and Erdegaard. This is
Mm,
kind of a bit more of a tricky one, I feel like, because there's a lot of debates around certain players. But I'll let you figure that one out.
Rice, Mendy, and Odegaard. Oh.
Hmm.
Okay, let's start Rice because he's been the most consistent. Oh, this is a shame because I think Odegaard's been injured, so
I feel like you need to phone a friend.
oh, literally found it. Um, I think I'm gonna have to do start Rice, bench Zubamendi,
Which
and
feels,
then so Odegaard.
yeah.
Just because, like, which is weird to say because Odegaard. Odegaard has not been around the team, and even when he has been around, he's kind of dropped
Mm-hmm.
off. But I still feel like he's still important.
Zubimendi's just coming into the team almost. I feel like he's found his feet pretty early on, but obviously he's showing promise and encouraging
Yeah,
performances. Obviously, Rice is arguably the best player this season. Him and a few others I feel like are in the mix. So sadly, it means that out
yeah,
of those three, Erdegaard would be the one to go, which is crazy when you think of he's our captain, his ability, and everything like that. But it just shows how strong our squad is. Ideally, we'd not want to sell any of them. Like if I asked you at different points of the season, you'd probably give me different answers. But looking right now, obviously this is
yeah.
current day.
Answers, yeah.
We're at the start of April as we're recording this. Gyökeres, Havertz, or Jesus? Who are you starting? Who are you benching? And who are you selling?
I'd probably have to say start. Oh, okay. Let's start with the sell first. I think that's more
Hmm.
easy. I think I'd sell Jesus just because of the fact he's been injured a lot and he's inconsistent. But don't get me wrong, the season when we bought Jesus before we got injured, for me, he was the man who I thought he's gonna
Hmm.
get us to the Prem title. I've always rated Jesus, and even when he does come on, I always hope, yeah, Jesus is gonna come on. Even like this season when he came back from injury and he was bagging it, like I remember he bagged against Villa, he bagged against Inter. I said this is the Jesus, but Arteta's not going to use him. He's kind of dropped off and stuff like that. So I'll probably say sell Jesus. I'll be. This might be very very controversial, but when we bought Havertz, I didn't understand the signing, and to this day I still don't. Just because at the time when we did buy him, I
Yeah.
felt like we needed a striker like a Gyökeres, and he went for the more false nine. He went for the false nine approach. I remember we're buying him from Chelsea, and he didn't do much at Chelsea. But the way how Arteta's changed him has been
Hmm.
very surprising to see. And if Havertz wins us the Premier League, I'll be like, cool. But I'll be very honest, I didn't actually understand the signing when we did buy him, and to this day don't get it. Um, that's probably a very controversial take, by the way.
Do you feel like with Havertz and Gyökeres,
Mm.
that's a constant debate? I mean, Gyökeres right now, if we're looking at that on international break, he's just been so clinical, and we know that he has scored a few goals from out of play, like not just from set pieces or anything like that. But I feel like for me,
Yeah,
Havertz definitely is a player that has grown since he's joined. I know it was a bit of a shock signing, but he's definitely sort of found his feet more, and he suits how like maybe Saka plays down the wing, cutting back and
yeah.
everything like that. Whereas Gyökeres is still a little bit unfamiliar with it,
Mm.
I want to say. But out of them two, I do feel like yeah, it's a bit of a debate with those, and I do feel like even in the next few weeks or even at the end of the season, if I ask this question again, it's probably going
Mm.
to get a different answer. Like you never know what could kind of happen. But yeah, that was basically the end of that little game and the end of the actual episode as a whole. Thanks, Dante, for joining me. I feel like I'll plug, obviously, anything down in the description below with the centre circle, just so people are ready for a comeback if that is to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think if we do win something,
Maybe at the parade.
maybe a little vlog, maybe. I don't know.
I'll be back, obviously, with a solo episode on Tuesday, and I'll have another guest next Friday. But yeah, thanks so much for listening.